Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another game news roundup where we go over the latest gaming news, gaming sales, gaming industry information, and we got gaming rumors actually today. Reports, insiders coming out, and analysts coming out saying stuff. As the title says, Switch 2 announcement this month. Is it imminent? Is it about to happen? We do know Nintendo announced a while ago that they will be unveiling the successor to the Switch in their current fiscal year, which ends March 31st, 2025. So sometime between now and 6 months from now, basically, or 6.5 months from now, whatever, they will be fully unveiling the Switch 2. However, now there were rumors and stuff coming out about the Switch 2. There's more and more information that's been slowly... this could be rumors. Might not be real. We'll see. One makes obvious sense. Nintendo is set to unveil its successor in the next year, yada, yada, yada. And obviously, there was a report from last month that developers were told not to expect the Switch 2 to launch until April or later of next year. However, senior analyst at MST Financial, David Gibson, is suggesting the Switch 2 could launch sooner than previously reported, which would be next fiscal year, starting in April. And it could actually be announced later this month or in early October. I think it might be September 18th to the 26th or in early October, trying to avoid Tokyo Game Show, which is at the end of September. Referring to the Switch 2 announcement, which was in response to the head of games industry, Christopher Dring, with industry whispers around something Switch 2 related happening this month. I thought I'd remind everyone of all time the official list of greatest consoles of all time is the Nintendo Switch and everyone else. The Switch 2 there's a very good chance of being the best-selling video game platform of all time, which we'll get into that after we discuss this. So he added, no one seems to have noticed the Nintendo assembler, Hosiden, is spending 2 billion yen. That's like $20 million, less than $20 million with the current exchange rate. Anyways, on production equipment and 1 billion yen on automation in fiscal year, the third quarter of the fiscal year 2025, but I don't know the exact dates of these fiscal years, for its major customer in amusement, which is Nintendo. I still expect September news and March 2025 release. So this analyst is expecting the Switch 2 to come out in March 2025, which would make some sense because the original Switch came out in March of 2017. March 2025 obviously is the same month, and it's 8 years after the launch of the Switch 1, which obviously we don't know the actual name. Everyone's just calling it the Switch successor or the Switch 2. We really don't know. And then some people making fun of it and saying, the Switch U because of the Wii U. I'm like, well, hopefully it's not like a Switch U because the Wii U is a complete and utter failure, to say the least. So, analysts claiming he expects some unveiling of the Switch 2 in September. Maybe not a full unveiling of the full lineup, the full price and everything, but at least an unveiling of here's a quick unveiling of here is... I think when they did the original Switch unveiling, it was a short trailer showing kind of roughly how it works, quick clips of a handful of games, and then a full unveiling was in January, I believe, or December of, right before the Switch came out. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. So maybe in September we'll get a short, here's a trailer for the Switch 2, here's what it kind of is, here's a handful of the games coming out for it, quick clips. And then a full unveiling maybe in December or January, with it then coming out in March. And obviously, price-wise, we don't know. Specs-wise, rumors and reports of the specs being roughly more powerful than a PS4, but less powerful than the PS4 Pro, and obviously with the latest technology in it as well. But we'll see how much that'll cost them. The Switch 1, power-wise, is a little bit of the PS3 and the 360. I know they're behind, Xbox and PlayStation tech-wise, which makes sense. It's a handheld, and Nintendo's been behind tech-wise since the days of the Wii. They've been a generation behind, and I guess the Switch is a generation and a half behind. Think about when generations launched. But generations at this point is kind of a funny talk. Nintendo has been doing their own thing, and yes, the PS4 and the Xbox One launched in the same year. and the PS5 and the Series X and S was the same year. But there were rumors that Microsoft was actually going to jumpstart their next generation of Xbox. Rumors, potentially of a Steam Deck like Xbox potentially being open to allow even Steam running on, not just the Xbox OS on it, but allowing Steam behind it. They're all rumors. I mean, who knows what it'll actually end up being? Maybe more like a Switch and just be a portable Xbox and nothing else, and not being open. Who knows? We'll see. And obviously, there's also rumors of a very powerful next generation Xbox that'll cost $600 or $700 or something. You know, the huge. Like, we'll see what comes out for fruition. I mean, obviously, even if these are like in somewhat development, that doesn't mean they'll actually make the light of day. Because we know Xbox at one point was working on a cloud-based Xbox that was going to be like, you know, $50 or $100, and it just comes with a handheld and it's just connected to the internet for cloud gaming type of thing. But obviously now Xbox Cloud Gaming is available through, I think, some Amazon Fire Sticks and some, I think, Samsung TVs is available through. But of course, I know I digress as I'm starting to waffle a bit. Yeah, the topic here is Nintendo, the Switch 2 here. And there's also, I decided to write one article on this because it was going to be a 2-sentence article here. Industry insider Nate the Hate, who's generally fairly reliable, via Reddit has claimed the Switch 2 will have support for backwards compatibility. All he just said was it has backwards compatibility support. That's literally all he said. I was like, well, yeah, makes sense that the Switch 2 will be backwards compatible to the Switch 1 at least, because well, the SNES wasn't backwards compatible to the NES, the GameCube, but obviously the different, you know, cartridges and the discs and stuff. The Wii was backwards compatible with the GameCube. The Wii U was backwards compatible with the Wii. The Switch was not backwards compatible with anything, but it was definitely a huge shift for Nintendo. The Game Boy Color played Game Boy games. The Game Boy Advance played Game Boy games. The Nintendo DS played DS games. And 3DS also played DS games. Yeah. And, oh yeah, and on my chat here, I think there was a NES converter for SNES. Certainly a Game Boy. Yes, there was a thing you could connect to. Actually, I think the GameCube as well, I think might have had one that played Game Boy, maybe Game Boy Advance, as well as there definitely was one for the SNES that played Game Boy games for sure. I don't know about I don't think the NES. Just thinking about the thing, and there might have been a thing to play NES on. I don't know. But it wasn't out of the box. You had to buy a separate peripheral to be attached to it in order to play those games. Versus, you know, backwards compatible, just it's right out of the box. You know, PS5 plays PS4 games and is backwards compatible with some early, you know, PS1, 2, and 3 games. Some, I think. I think it might be through emulation or whatever. And then the Xbox One is backwards compatible with most original Xbox and Xbox 360 games, as well as the Series X is backwards compatible with every single Xbox One game minus Kinect games, because Kinect doesn't work on the Series X or S. As well as all the backwards compatible games on the original Xbox and 360 that the Xbox One is. Yeah. So I just thought I'd mention that. So yeah. But yeah, Switch 2. Rumors are coming about that Nintendo might at least do a mini unveiling of something about it later this month, or maybe early October, potentially. I mean, we'll see what ends up, but I thought this would be a good video to discuss. And then potentially, there were reports of it potentially not coming out until April of next year, but now it was insider saying, hey, he still expects it in March 2025, which I guess to line up with the Switch 1 also coming out in March 2017 makes sense, be 8 years later. I always thought, like, yeah, March makes the most sense. I mean, I know PlayStation and Xbox don't do that. They almost always release their consoles in November. I feel like November's not the best time because you're gonna get the people who want it day one. You'll have shortages, and the people who want it for the holidays aren't able to get it. Versus you release it in March, hardcore fans will get it at launch, and then by the time the holidays roll around, any stock shortages, other than the fact that they're in the pandemic with the shortage, the chip shortages, there should hopefully be enough stock to meet most of the holiday demand, I guess. Yeah. And then we were going to discuss quickly about the Switch potentially being the best-selling video game platform of all time. Obviously, it's not there yet. It's in third place. And still selling. Obviously, it's not selling as well as it used to, but it's still consistently selling. It is currently so far behind the DS. But at this point, the DS was basically done selling. So at this point, the gap is just going to shrink between the Switch and the DS. Because here you can see this line here. Actually, initially, the Switch was ahead of the DS, and then the DS took off. Of course, the Switch is a lot more expensive than the DS was. And you see the DS grew its lead to the point. Also, you're wondering, why are these big ups and downs, and whatnot? It's because the DS launched in November, initially, in 2004. While the Switch came out in March 2017. So November versus March. It's the different holidays. You see the big ups is the Switch holiday. The big downs is the DS holiday. And then you got to the point where it got below. The Switch was over 15 million behind the DS. But since then, it's been closing the gap because the DS at this point, after 89 months, was practically done selling. It was only going to sell another about 4 million units. And after 89 months, we have the DS estimates at 150.4 million. And ended up selling 154.02 million, actually, to about 3.5 million more units. At this point, the DS was going to sell. So the gap is going to keep shrinking. The Switch has caught up by 6.3 million units over the last 12 months, and it's currently 8.4 million units behind the DS. And obviously, again, the gap is shrinking. If the Switch sales are down, it's going to keep shrinking the gap. And if Nintendo is actually somehow able to hit their forecast for the current fiscal year, shipment-wise, the Switch will be surpassing the DS in March of next year. I think just getting over it by a little bit. That's if they're able to hit the forecast. Obviously, shipment doesn't mean to be stealth, but there's always a bit of a gap because units sit on shelves and it takes a while to ship units across the world. Yeah, and obviously these other lines here, if you're wondering, we got the Wii here, down here at just over 100 million, and then we don't have our own estimates for the Game Boy, but I just put in there lifetime sales of the Game Boy, just below 120 million right there. And yeah, the Switch is moving up. Gap is shrinking. We'll see. Probably next summer, the Switch will be passing the DS lifetime sales, most likely, unless sales really drop off. By the end of next summer, I should say. But if not, then maybe September, October. And obviously, it depends when the Switch 2 comes out and how much that hurts Switch sales. And then obviously, we go to lifetime sales here. The PS2, we actually don't know the final total, because Sony had shipment of over 155 million, but it wasn't discontinued for another 9 months after that. And then for a while, they combined sales for the PS2 and the PS3, and then when they announced the PS3 hit 80 million, and you're like, okay, let's do some math here. And there was a gap. There was a range of where the PS2 likely sold lifetime, and the range was 158.7 million at the low end to, I believe, it was 161 million on the top end. In my mind, if the Switch gets to 160 million, it'll be the best-selling platform of all time. It's just be annoying if the Switch ends in that 155 to 160 million. We're all right, so which is actually number one? We don't know for sure. It would be nice if Sony gave us the actual final figure for the PS2. Jim Ryan, in his last day, a final interview on his last day as PlayStation CEO, was like, yes, what I remember is the 160 million, which is the number of the PS2. So I'm like, did it though? Is he rounding though? Probably rounding somewhat, either up or down. We don't know. It would be nice. Nintendo gives us quarterly shipments every quarter, but oh well, it is what it is. But we'll see where things go. The Switch still has to pass the DS first, and then it's on to the PS4, which, as you can see there, practically neck and neck. So, anyways, that's enough of me waffling. What are your thoughts? Are you excited for the Switch 2? Are you going to get it at launch? Or does it depend on the price? What price are you willing to pay for it? Are you willing to pay $300 at launch? $400 at launch? Maybe $500? I mean, hopefully not. I'm going to guess $399. I feel like is the max Nintendo should charge for the Switch 2, or whatever it's called, at launch. Or the Super Switch. The Switch U? I don't know. Whatever. Who knows? What do you think it'll be called? Guess your guessing games. I'm sure no one will be right. It'll be something different. Switch U? No, Dave. No, not Switch U. It's a terrible name. Super Switch, because, the NES and the Super NES. Okay, fine. Super Switch also, is it alliteration? The SS, Super, Switch, both start with S. Or Switch 2 to go with what PlayStation does. Who knows? We'll find out. We shall find out. I feel like Switch 2 is probably would be the smartest move, and keep the same basic design as the Switch. Obviously, change some things up, whatever. Don't go too overboard with some new gimmick. That's what hurt the Wii U. Also, they terribly marketed the Wii U, where if you weren't a core gamer, you didn't realize the Wii U was not just an add-on for the Wii. But Anyways, if you enjoyed me waffling on here for about 15 minutes at this point, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching. And I'll catch you all next time for some more gaming news, gaming rumors, gaming industry information, gaming sales, and whatnot. And yeah, I'm working my way towards 10,000 subs, and I'm inching my way up there. A little over 300 to go. One day, maybe I'll get to 10,000. That would be fantastic. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.